I'm in Congaree National Park. So I'm going to paddle the river, and I can already see that I'm blocked from going the direction I want it to. I decided to head upriver, though I was warned it'd probably be blocked. So I said, I'll get over this first one, but I'll look over the first one, the next, 40 yards, it's blocked again. Overcast day. Other than that, temperature is perfect and probably low 80s.
How's it going?
Howdy. There's a snake on that tree. Oh, I've reached an impasse. Yeah, I guess it's possible people have been going up and over that, but I'm not going to deal with it. Good morning. I'm in Congaree National Park. Yesterday I enjoyed paddleboarding through the park, and today I'm going to do some hiking. I'm leaving the campground now, heading toward the visitor center so I can catch the boardwalk. Had a tent camp last night because they don't allow RV parking. It made it interesting. Let's see what this says. Bluff Campground, Longleaf Trail. I'm going to guess this is the way to the visitor center. Well, I found the boardwalk. I must have gone around the visitor center. I did stop yesterday and pick up a pamphlet for this boardwalk tour. So number 1 says this American beech tree, identified by its smooth gray bark, is likely over 100 years old. The species was an important source of food in the floodplain for American Indians and early settlers. Beech nuts were collected and ground into flour for bread and meal cakes. A lot of water on the ground down there. Pretty much this whole park is flat. It's a floodplain. And it does get flooded, they say, like 10 plus times a year. I was at marker 20 when I saw the woodpecker, so it was perfectly timed. Marker 20 said, this forest existed long before it was protected as a national park. The natural sounds you hear today are some of the same sounds heard by the Congaree and Catawba tribes that came here long ago. Take a moment to listen to the forest. You may be surprised by what you hear. The forest comes alive with sounds of songbirds, frogs, and the wind blowing through the trees. What would this forest look like and sound like if it had not been protected? Just a few miles from here, where the Congaree and Wateree rivers meet, a maroon settlement once existed. These settlements were comprised of individuals who escaped slavery on nearby plantations and formed their own independent communities. Rivers provided a means for travel, finding food, and acquiring supplies. Dense vegetation in the floodplain forest, like the twisted roots seen here, provided safety because of the difficulty it posed for slave owners and slave catchers attempting to traverse it in pursuit of those who had escaped. I'm really digging this part of the walk. The 18th Amendment was passed in 1919, prohibiting the sale and consumption of alcohol in the United States. Moonshiners and bootleggers found refuge in places like the Congaree River floodplain to earn a living. The iron box you see in the distance is an old still used to make alcohol. Water and corn squeezins were used to make a sour mash. The mash was heated and distilled through copper tubing to produce moonshine. South Carolina is known as the palmetto state. It is named after the state tree, the cabbage palmetto. The short, fan-like palms beside the boardwalk are dwarf palmettos, a relative of the cabbage palmetto. Once a bend in the Congaree River, Weston Lake is now an oxbow lake. Over 2,000 years ago, the river gradually changed its course and meandered south, leaving behind Weston Lake. The lake is slowly filling in with clay and organic debris. Freshwater turtles, such as the yellow-bellied slider and common snapping turtle, are often spotted here in warmer months of the year. All right, I'm finally getting to leave the boardwalk and hike through the natural terrain. Should be fun. I keep seeing all sorts of tracks through the mud. Raccoon or possum. There's so many cypress trees. Look at all the knees. Wow, look at this majestic tree. We're on the Weston Lake loop, so we'll be going to the right. So I looked on the map, and this is Cedar Creek. This is what I paddled yesterday, but further downstream. I'm walking up on these trees that they call pawpaw, and reading one of the signs earlier, it talked about the Native Americans. Oh, there's a tall one. The Native Americans would get fruit off of this tree. So I'm not sure what time of year they bear fruit. Obviously not now. Very cool. Millipede. Boy Scout America Troop 199 built that. Thank you, Boy Scouts. That plant's kind of neat. It's called lizard's tail. There's quite a bit more of them over here. It says visitor center this way. Can't believe the amount of boardwalks in this place. An old growth forest is home to trees in all phases of life and death, from seedlings to champion trees to rotten logs. Big trees, both alive and dead, play an important role in the animal life of the floodplain, providing food and shelter for an abundance of species. The value of these trees was recognized by members of the local community in the mid-1900s. The threat of logging motivated groups to advocate for the protection of the Congaree, leading to its inclusion in the National Park System in 1976. Just amazing. Due to a slight increase in elevation of only a few inches, switch cane dominates the forest floor in this area. Although it looks similar to bamboo, an invasive plant in South Carolina, it is more closely related to sugarcane. A dense growth of switch cane is called a canebrake. Canebrakes were so prevalent in South Carolina during early European settlement that the phrase was historically used on maps to describe vast areas of switch cane. Water tupellos dominate the landscape here and are identified by their swollen trunks. These trees only grow where water is plentiful. You may notice moss on the lower part of the tree trunk. This is an indicator of the water level from previous floods. Flooding is a natural occurrence in Congaree National Park and is important for bringing fresh nutrients into the floodplain. As you look at the ground on either side of the boardwalk, you will notice a dark-colored mud, a mixture of clay and old leaves. This mud, called Doravon muck, is 8 feet thick and plays an important role in the health of the floodplain. It filters water, traps pollution, and turns pollutants into harmless compounds. By filtering water, it helps keep the floodplain and the Congaree River clean. The impressive height of a Congaree's forest is the result of the rich soil, frequent flooding, a long growing season, and a history free of intensive logging. Here, the trees you see average over 130 feet in height, making Congaree one of the tallest deciduous forests in the world. The forest is rich in biodiversity, meaning it supports an abundance of many different kinds of living organisms. All right, this is the campsite near the visitor center. I left my fly off last night so I could see the fireflies at night.